Your show's rubbish.
Should we do this?
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll count you in because I know it gets more anxious. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trout Spinners podcast with Miles and Gary. How are you, Gary? All right? You're looking well. You're looking beardy. You've got a lot of the beard.
Yeah, I got a growing bit. Not through vanity or anything. I just can't bother to shave. I can't be bothered, as Carl would say, to shave. Yeah, and a few people have said, "Oh, that looks good." So I'll keep growing it.
Can I be honest? I'm not one of those people.
No, I know Mars didn't say that, no, but hopefully you don't think it's terrible. I am trimming it with hair clippers, so it's not getting any longer or thicker, but it's just going to stay about the same.
Gives your face a lot of shape, doesn't it? It gives your face a lot of shape, a lot of shading.
Yeah, like a round big piglet.
Yeah,
looks like with a beard. So I'm okay, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I'm at my mum's house. Good to be home. It's good to have the creature comforts of home.
It's interesting that because I have this dilemma. Like I now always refer to home as being where I live now. I've been here 6-7 years and I've been in Brighton my whole adult life pretty much. But a lot of people like you, I've noticed, you will refer to I'm going home. But you don't really see home as where you actually live. You see it as your mum's house.
Hey, home is wherever I lay my head on the pillow, baby.
It's in my flat. Hello. Now, Mars, what is this? I believe it's called the Trout Spinners. Is that right?
You'd be absolutely correct in. Don't assume it makes an ass out of you and me. This is a retrospective podcast of the Ricky Gervais show from XFM many moons ago, 20 years ago.
It's our love letter to the shows. That's how I like to describe it. And even though we don't love each show, in a love letter, if you love someone, there's bits of their personality or bits of what they do that you're frustrated with. So it's our love letter. Frustration, love, anger, lust, everything is going in this letter to the shows.
Careful, just
I'm careful.
bit sensual that description.
Well, I've got to be.
Gary's quite an emotional person when you get him on a good day.
Get him a bit of champagne supernova. I know. Mars is just going to do a little intro now. I know I could have just let you do it, but I like to introduce your introduction.
When are you going to do that?
No, I just did it. Mars,
right. Okay.
Mars, he's going to a little précis of the show overall. He's going to pick out a few of his favourite points and say, this is what happened in the show, bang, 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 and then we're going to get on with the discussion.
I wish I could take that amount of credit by actually copy and paste it from Pilkopedia. This week we discuss episode 25, 8th of February 2003, an important show that sees the mention of the infinite monkey theorem and the first appearance of the little Jamaican fellas in Rockbusters. The film clip this week is The Graduate, and the first notable thing I will say about this episode is this is where we got our name, right? We are those two little Jamaican fellas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never referred to it, but so if you never worked it out until now, here's the reveal. But obviously, everyone who likes the XFM shows will know why we've got our name. But yeah, this is what we picked. I picked the name, and I think I have a lot of regrets about it. I tend to regret things I do all the time anyway, but because there's a lot of shameful. But yeah, I tend to pick something and then think, oh, I wish I'd picked that. So I wish we picked another name. But yeah, this is the name. This is where it came from.
Get over it, yeah. Get over it. This is it.
See you later. Now, I would just say this. Coming up, we have a general discussion about the show and what we feel about it. We've got our favourite quotes, which I think a lot of people like. We've got a bit of audio. Last week we said we advertised for people to send in their audio. Listeners, they can send in sort of 10-second clips of them and we'll play them on air. So we've got one of them. I believe it's Luke that we've got coming up. And we've got the bit I love, which is picking our favourite songs for some library or something.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, so that's what's coming up. But Mars, I'm going to do this slightly reversed this week. What was your initial impressions of this week's show?
Yeah, I like it. It's a good one. It's a good one for me.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Favourite quotes. Yeah.
So at the start, they talk about the Michael Jackson documentary. I remember that documentary going out. That was quite a big deal, wasn't it, at the time?
Martin Bashir. Yeah, actually, It's that's where it led to him being put on trial, which he was found not guilty during that trial for
How things have changed.
abuse of the boy who was in that clip. So
Yeah.
that's it. Kind of sparked that. But yeah, it's I remember it coming out as well, and he's just the most odd man. Apart from all the terrible stuff, it's just even his good parts. It's just odd. Like, and the fact he was a billionaire, probably one of the richest men in the world, and just could have all this gold elephants and whatever, just a very odd man. So, but it does date it having a chat about Michael Jackson. Obviously, one, because he's dead, and two, because he's kind of, we don't
also
talk
subsequent like documentaries have come out.
We don't talk about Michael Jackson, exactly. So
No.
the actual intro, Ricky's first words, are one of my favourite, and I know we both like this. Obviously, it's in your top quotes and it's in mine, but I just like where he just says, "Oh, chilly weather. Why not put a cardigan?" That was the Cardigans. That is perfect pastiche kind of Mickey taking of DJs that do that sort of thing, because it's the most bland intro. Chilly weather. Why not put in a cardigan?
I'd love to be one of those late night DJs. They are in decline, aren't they? I mean,
we've applied. We've applied to be on a lot of radio stations, and we both accepted and both realised that if we ever did happen to get on a professional radio station, we would be on at 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. That would be our slot, of 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. whatever.
Yeah, we wouldn't get 4 hours.
Okay, 1 a.m. to 1:30.
No, I think so. But Carl isn't impressed, is he? Carl isn't impressed by the Michael Jackson documentary. He's more focused on the Siamese twins. Like, a trope of Carl's character is he loves the weird, the supernatural, the freaks of society, if you will. Things that are a bit strange, Steve Merchant.
Exactly. And he's not interested in stuff that you'd expect a person would be interested in. So it doesn't surprise me that he's not into the Michael Jackson documentary. Like with Ricky's often said, like with Carl, he often follows the subplot, and kind of an extension of that is with Carl, he's often interested in the stuff that most people don't think about. So most people would be more interested in the Michael Jackson documentary, but with him, he's kind of interested in little subgenres of weirdness. The Siamese twins story it's just so, every time I hear that, and I've seen them, I've seen them before I'd heard them talk about it.
Both of them.
I've seen these twins. I've seen the twins, and it is oh my god, it's, you just think, can you imagine? Like, I mean, they joke about it, what if one had bad breath, but it's just anyway, it's just
what would you ask them as a as a passing? What are better things for you to ask them, in that interview?
I don't know. Do you to Primark cater for conjoined twins? God. Like a double jumper or something? No, I don't know. It's tragic. I can see why Carl's. I mean, I'm not saying this is an example of where Carl's interested in something that most people wouldn't be. I think most people would be interested in the twins because they are. It's a tragic sort of story, but it's interesting and it's weird. And Carl is certainly interested in it. And Trisha, by the way, is if you're not from the UK, or if you're from the UK but under sort of 29, Trisha was kind of like a talk show host, like Oprah, but much smaller. Not smaller physically, but much smaller.
She probably would be a bit smaller physically as well, wouldn't she?
Yeah, but she did the whole Oprah thing. That's what. So it's almost as if they were going
She's
on Oprah.
Often had a huge career in the US. Trisha.
Has she?
Yeah. Who would have thought? Whilst Kilroy,
Well, yeah.
Working in Asda now, isn't he?
I don't know. Delivering pizzas or something. To hopefully to Muslims to get back at him because he's a dick and he doesn't like Muslims, and we support Muslims here on this channel and all races and religions except Swedish.
No, we do have a few Swedish listeners, so you can't say that.
I love Sweden. No, I'm joking. I just picked a country around.
Do you know what I mean? Carl is reluctant to claim money back on the prizes when he buys the Graduate on VHS. Because he doesn't want to spend like $15.99 on like all of the bonus features and DVD extras.
This was a man earning probably about 40 grand a year at the time.
But I do understand that sort of thing, because I've been in that situation at work where you have to claim back expenses. And he says, no, that will take ages. And I probably would have done the same thing, because I wouldn't want to wait the month, because you've got to process the payment, then you've got to wait for it to be approved by the management, then you've got to add it onto your, like, the payroll or whatever, then you get it back eventually. And it's like, Carl, I imagine, would actually be pretty good with his money. He's
He's a saver.
He'll take the piss out of Steve, but he definitely is a saver. He's going to be like his dad. He's looking for value for money. He's thinking, why? I don't want to do this radio show anyway. I'm just going to get the fucking prize on VHS. No one else gives us anything, so I'll do, the bare minimum.
No, it's fair enough. And again, the way Ricky kind of destroys him for it is, again, it's very funny to listen to. I think that one of the reasons I quite like this week's show is no one goes over the line. Ricky doesn't go over the line. I don't think anything's kind of done that's unreasonable this week in terms of the teasing.
Do you not think, though, not even with, I suppose we do need to get to it eventually, but it's, why not now? The infinite monkey theory.
No, I don't, because he doesn't insult Carl directly. He projects this anger, and obviously part of that is acting, and part of it probably is genuine frustration at Carl not understanding. But I don't think Ricky goes over the line this week. He kind of, I've got in my favourite quotes, and it's like one of my favourite things. I'd do it now, but are they going off on a story that they play a record, Carl, because I'm going to knock you out now? Because like that is, to me, that's fine, because if you thought he really meant he was going to knock him out, that would be unreasonable. But he doesn't call him a dickhead, like in that. It's that tone from the other week that is not here this time. It's just anger and frustration, and it's partly acting from Ricky.
But it's funny because Ricky can't handle the fact that Carl doesn't grasp the nature of the theory, which is actually quite a complicated theory.
It's a very actually, I looked it up.
I tried to research it, and I got to like the first page. First, he went on Wikipedia, and I was like, this is just too complicated, too many numbers. So I went on the other one. I understand the idea behind it, but I don't understand any more than that. It's funny because Ricky, like, he's not very patient, first and foremost. Is clearly not very. But you've got this great dynamic between the three. You've got Steve mediating between the two. Steve also has to tell Ricky to let Carl finish. And I actually get really annoyed with Ricky at those moments. I'm like, just let him fucking finish. He hasn't finished his story yet.
Yeah, Ricky's a bit, I'd describe him as a bit annoying when he's kind of having to go at Carl during that moment. But I don't think he oversteps the line, really. He's just himself, like, he's interrupting. That's like, to me, that's not, it doesn't cross a line, but it's frustrating to listen to. But you're right, it's a very complicated theory, but it's not complicated. It's actually, well, it's quite a simple theory, but it's very hard for a human being to grasp the nature of infinity. Like, because I was reading it, basically, if it's an infinite, a monkey with an infinite amount of time, they probably will type the works of Shakespeare. However, if you filled the entire universe that we've got with monkeys at a typewriter,
big, isn't it?
Sitting next to each other. No, listen. And they started from the beginning of time, and they went to the end when the universe is going to die, well into the future. They would type almost nothing of Shakespeare, tiny little bits. So you have to go from that to infinity is such a big leap that they would actually type it, but it's very hard to kind of get your head around. I was reading a bit. Do you want me to read a bit out?
Can you make it really simple?
What I'll do is read out the bit, because Carl refers to this in a later episode. I don't think it's this one. He refers to in that episode that they actually got some monkeys in a typewriter and they didn't come up with anything.
Right, not enough amount of time then.
So what? Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love the quote. So in 2003, lecturers and students from the University of Plymouth Medilab arts course used a £2,000 grant from the Arts Council. They're lucky. We've been applying for lots of grants and things, but we don't get them. To study the literary output of real monkeys, they left a computer keyboard in the enclosure of 6 Celebus-crested macaques in Paignton Zoo in Devon for a month with a radio link broadcast. Not only did the monkeys produce nothing but 5 total pages largely consisting of the letter S, the lead male began bashing the keyboard with a stone, and the monkeys followed by soiling it. Mike Phillips, director of the university's Institute of Digital Arts and Technology, said that the artist-funded project was primarily performance art and they had learnt an awful lot from it. He concluded that monkeys are not random generators, they're more complex than that.
That sounds like me at work this week. To air some excrement on the keyboard.
Yeah. So Ricky is right when he says it's infinity or nothing. I think he says it in a later episode. It's either infinity or nothing. You could have the whole universe filled with monkeys and they would never do it. But as long as you say infinity, they would almost certainly do it.
Sort out for you. Well, there you go. You've taught everyone a new thing they didn't know before.
Yeah.
God, I got bored just saying that sentence.
Yeah, that was. I drifted off. But yeah, what else happens in this episode? I think you happy with Ricky the way Ricky is with Carl during that section?
I don't mind. I think it's funny that Carl does actually have a lot of patience, and he's willing to, he stays so calm during that whole thing. Whereas if that was me, if that was me and someone else was being that aggressive and trying to force me to understand something that's really complicated, I'd really go mental. I'd go absolutely mental, equally mental as Ricky does with Carl, because you can't just expect someone to understand something so quickly.
But the thing is, I wouldn't kind of tolerate it from my friends or people I know either. But it's within their accepted roles that they have both entered into during this show. Ricky is the kind of person who knows about science, I know I'm not saying all of this is fine and like he's never arrogant. He is arrogant with it sometimes, but he does know about science. He does actually know. He's not an expert, but he does know a lot. Carl is, and he's the antagonist, and Carl is the one who is antagonized, and Carl plays the dim role, because I think Carl probably understands it a little bit more than he's letting on. He probably can, but it's difficult to understand. I'm not saying...
I think it's so easy to forget, but they are actually broadcasting. It's not like someone's just planted a mic in a living room and we're getting them natural. Yeah, of course things change. You click on. I think even like we forget, like even broadcasting this, you do sort of that. There are parts of your personality that you beef up or you take away or you remove because you're cautious that you're presenting a version of yourself. And for the reason why I don't think Carl gives a shit, really. I actually don't think he would have given a shit actually before on or off air, to be honest.
No, yeah. I hide a lot of my my masculine side when I'm on air. As you know, I'm a very aggressive masculine kind of, I'm an alpha male. Yeah. But I hide that on air. And I'm more feminine. No, but
is that your mum? You got that from your mum's though, didn't you?
I got my mum's, the masculinity from my mum. A lot of testosterone. I think that if you're right about being on air, because when they're in the pub discussing this, I can imagine Ricky gets shouty and annoyed, but he wouldn't react like that to Carl if they weren't broadcasting. He's doing it for entertainment. You've got to remember, when Ricky's being like that with Carl, he's doing it for entertainment, and it is entertaining. He does cross the line. He crossed the line a few weeks ago when he's like dickhead in that really nasty way.
I can't. Do you know what? I can't get.
He's trying to entertain. That's the key.
I can't get that passionate on air. The way he gets so shouty. I don't know. I'm sort of a chilled out entertainer.
Yeah, but neither of us are like Carl. If we had a Carl character, we probably you know what I like. Genuinely, I get very frustrated at times, and I can kind of make my point forcefully, but yeah, I do with you. But on air, you're not gonna. We're two normalish people, we're not gonna.
Relatively speaking, I like this episode because my favourite quote, and I will get to it later, but he's sat in there when he's talking about Carl trying to get on with his day. These are the stories I absolutely love, and I wish there were more of them. But what the day-to-day running was like at XFM, because he's got a fob. Ricky can get into the XFM building with a fob, and they talk about that, don't they? When they get his fob taken off him, he says, "I'll go to the studio." So I've got a normal job here. He goes, "Go to the studio." He's sat in there.
Can you imagine? I can totally imagine that. And Carl getting in, because Carl's very focused. He doesn't like fun. He doesn't like this playful stuff. He just doesn't. He's the opposite to Ricky in that sense. But he gets in there. He's got stuff to do. He's probably stressed anyway. He's come into work. He's got someone who's kind of perpetually kind of stressed. And then you've got Ricky Gervais in your office, knowing what he's going to do to you, knowing he's going to completely ruin your day and take the piss out of you.
But you know what he's doing? He's probably on one of those swivel chairs, just spinning around, eating a sandwich, throwing the ball against the wall, or just messing around in Carl's ear.
I think he's sitting there with his feet up, smile on his face, waiting for Carl, I've got you.
Can you imagine the sort of freedom that Ricky had at that time?
No.
Just literally right in Oxford Street or central London. Then he probably just goes, for lunch I'll just go and annoy Carl. I know he's going to be there, so he won't mind me being there. And he's got a proper job to do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's the thing with when you're a writer, like, and the thing that with Ricky and Steve is that you go through periods where you're incredibly intense and working. Like when they're writing The Office, he wouldn't do that. Like when they're actually writing it seriously. But once it's written and it's produced, you have this big gap where, like, and Steve's referred to it before. You've had nothing to do a week, Ricky. We weren't even writing. You know, you've had nothing to do, yet you've come up with nothing for the show. Literally, the show was his only job for a while, and it must have been a lot. Like I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not lazy, and I don't like just doing nothing. But it would be nice, wouldn't it, to have done loads of work. It really paid off because with The Office, and you know it's big, and you don't have to worry about money probably ever again, almost at that point even. And so your only job is a Saturday lunchtime radio show where you can really you love annoying the producer, and it must have been heaven.
Also, but Carl allows it, doesn't he? Because
that's what I say. He settles into the role of the show. They both know their roles. Steve's role is a bit more complicated, but he knows his role. Ricky and Carl and Steve, they all know their roles within the show. Carl accepts it because he knows at the end of the day he doesn't believe all the stuff he says on air, and he is more intelligent than he lets on. But he comes across as dim and like slow, because he knows it's his role on air.
I just cracked my neck. It really hurts.
Oh, really?
I wasn't really... What did you say?
My point. I'm not repeating it. The listeners heard.
Oh, my back, it's just because I moved my head a bit, and then, when you swivel your neck, write that on the board, and my neck just sort of, I don't know.
It's good to crack sometimes. It releases the tension that was in the joint, yeah.
I feel better. Thanks for asking anyway. Shall we talk Valentine's Day?
Yeah, let's talk Valentine's.
Everyone's favourite time of the year.
It's interesting because this show. I was thinking we were close on air. Forget that. I was thinking it was February for some reason. Anyway, yeah. So it's Valentine's Day on this show, or it's going to be Valentine's Day coming up, and perfect opportunity. And that's another reason I like the show, is that you get a nice balance of Carl antagonising Steve, Ricky antagonising Carl kind of getting on both their nerves. Everyone's kind of getting on each other's nerves, but without going too far. Obviously, Steve and Valentine's Day. But bless him, Steve. Well, not now, because he's got a nice girlfriend apparently. But it's a perfect opportunity. If you knew Steve Merchant during those times and you're on a radio show with him, you're gonna take the piss out.
Well, he gets to it. He gets to it really well, because Dickie Anderson, friend of the show, emails in and says, "I'm lazy. I'm work shy. Can I have a job?" He said, "All right, ask him if he's got a goggle eye freak there." So, all right, mate, don't say that. And then Carl goes, "Actually, I was thinking about that, Carl." Yeah. What? Think about the what?
He actually gets it wrong, Carl. He gets it wrong. He says, "What are you happier with? The fact that no girls like you enough, or that you don't have to get card for someone?" Actually, what you should say is, "What's the case? Are you happy because you don't have to get a card for someone, or are you sad because no girls like you enough?" But he says it slightly wrong. I always kind of noticed that, but yeah.
I just like his honesty though, because I've said that. I've told you loads of times that you're an odd-looking fella.
Yeah.
It's just that thing you go through all of the phases of friendship. You go, you're an odd-looking fella. Insult. First time you say it. Second time you say it, you're still a bit offended. Third time, you've just got to accept now that you're an odd-looking fella.
Yeah.
And not just me, but loads of people in the office think that.
Yeah.
Get over it, all right?
Yeah. Not just as you walk down the building as well, not just in the studio.
It's the eyes.
I know, but to be, again, Steve knows it's his role in the show, that he's on a level above Carl, and he's more of a piss taker of Carl, but he knows and accepts that part of his role is taking a lot of shit, mainly from Carl, but Ricky as well. Those Claire episodes where he's like, "That's lanky pissing streak, that's freaking goggle eye."
But you can't do the same to Ricky. Like, it's always Ricky and Steve. And do you ever get that feeling in life where there are just some people who are just kind of untouchable? If you try to insult them, though you could probably do that, they're just sort of solid. They're untouchable.
Ricky's untouchable in the sense that he, more than anyone on the show, doesn't care.
Even if you don't care, you can still get away with it. But
No, but if you don't care, you're untouchable. That's the main thing, and that's a good thing in life. Like, if you don't react to something, or you react and laugh, and so it's when Carl insults Steve. Steve doesn't laugh along, and that's what makes it funny, because Steve genuinely is offended when he laughs along with when Ricky does it, but not when Carl does it. If you laugh along with people, then you kind of protect yourself from fallout from being insulted. And the other thing is, and it's the way it is, it's the Ricky Gervais show. Ricky is on a level above them two, not in terms of talent necessarily, but in terms of importance. They both of them know it's the Ricky Gervais show. It's Ricky Gervais is the talent. Ricky Gervais has been on TV. Ricky Gervais is well known. They're not well known. They are now much more, but they weren't then. Yeah, Ricky kind of gets away with. They probably don't attack Ricky more, because if you like see some birds and they're fighting over some crumbs, if the big one goes and takes some crumbs, they don't usually get attacked by smaller ones. But if the smaller ones go, the bigger ones kind of attack them, and it's that kind of mentality, I think.
You get it all here on the show. You get pigeon chat. But it's the only example I can think of the time where Ricky vaguely appears kind of vulnerable is when they're talking about his appearance on the Jonathan Ross show, which we will get to eventually.
Yeah,
but not today. But that's the only time. That's a teaser.
And I'll say this: whenever Mars has more than half a bottle of wine, he gets in touch with Jonathan Ross's agent usually, so to try and get him on the show. So we are trying to get Jonathan Ross on the show, but it's unlikely. But you never know.
Before we wrap up, we are going to have a break. But Gary, I want to leave this with you. Ryan Williamson has been in touch and he's sent us some Rockbusters. So okay. I'll read these out and then we'll have a break, right? And we'll come back and you'll not get
smooth, mate. Mars is the editor-in-chief of this. Yeah.
Ryan says, thought I might send you a few we had so you can play with each other. You know, if you're bored. I would never play with you, Gary.
Well, Scrabble maybe, but...
If you do happen to play, I apologise right now for the clues. They're just as bad as Carl's, and that's what we were aiming for.
That's what you want, yeah, go on.
Here we go. Number 1. That person just stole my butter. N-M. That person just stole my butter. N-M. Second one. The Jamaican fella thinks that cat over there is happy. K-P. Little Jamaican fella thinks that cat is happy. And number 3. You can keep decapitating people. What's going on there? E.S. You can keep decapitating people. What's going on there? E.S.
Is that Ed Sheeran?
You'll have to wait and see.
All right, guys. How's it going? One of my favourite quotes, it's where Ricky brings up to Carl. He says, what was that thing that you were saying about glasses? Carl says to Steve, it's a bit weird that you've got glasses because you've got a good pair of eyes on you. And I think that's great. I just think it's fantastic. Like, he says it's not an insult, but it's such a dig, you know. And I think it's such a good observation in general, you know. People do look different without their glasses on. And, it's such a thing that only Carl would come out with.
Thanks, Luke. That was Luke. Luke B. Good stuff. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
He goes on to say, thanks, lads. Love it as always. You're getting better by the episode. Both seem more relaxed as time goes by. Still gardening away. Getting weird looks whilst cracking up on your show. All right, see you later.
I enjoy the thought of people cracking up as they're listening to the show. That's lovely. I'm sure some people don't, but yeah, some people, 2 stars. But some people do. That's lovely, a lovely thought. Like if you're in a supermarket or just doing something serious, like a funeral. I'd love people to be listening to a funeral and so on.
Often the best time to listen to the show at a funeral. But do be careful with those garden shears and the lawnmower in, and don't chop up your hands.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I have said this before in a previous show. In a former life or in my next life, if you believe in that, I'd love to be a gardener. I just don't like getting my hands dirty, but I quite like the idea of like it's quite a peaceful job, I imagine. Like it's quite a sort of meditative kind of listening to way on your audio. I genuinely would love that. I'm not very good at my hands otherwise, but quite out of all the trades.
Is that what your girlfriend said?
Oh yeah. God.
Sorry.
Well, who are you?
I'm Jimmy Carr.
Jethro, sort of Jethro character.
I can promise you now, the listeners, that if Miles at any point in his life ever was offered the job of gardener, he even if it was for a salary of 50 grand a year or 60 grand a year, I promise you he wouldn't take it. There's no way you would take a job as gardener. It's a little sort of fantastical thing where you just
Well, it's like when Carl says, "Would you be a paper boy for a grand?"
Yeah, it's sort of simple life, but gardening is tough. You're not a gardener.
Anyway, thank you, Luke.
It'd be like me if I said, I really like assembling furniture. And I won't go into it, but last week I talked about the fact that my girlfriend it assembled all our furniture, my ex-girlfriend, and she even assembled my bed after we split up, my new bed.
And that was the reason why they split up in the first place. But
no, there's a lot of very complex reasons.
Let's not go into them now. Let's do a special episode on Gary's relationships.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, if you have any of your favourite quotes, stories you want us to include within the podcast, you can do so and get in touch. Send us an MP3 file to trout.de@gmail.com. Coming up, we have XFM the Community, where we read out portions of your feedback and your general thoughts on the official XFM shows. But now, time for some favourite quotes.
Favourite quotes. Well, we've actually touched on some of these already because it's impossible not to sometimes. You just have to.
It is, yeah.
So I'm going to start with one I've already done, but I do love it. It starts with Carl, then it's Ricky. But are they going off on a story? They're playing a record, Carl, because I'm going to knock you out. Just loads.
What sort of a show has a feature called Monkey News?
Monkey News. It's not as if you can say, oh, never guess what I did today. Yeah, it's very harsh. Very, very harsh. But
here's some sound effects and that.
And bread.
And bread.
Like the way both of them say it. Like Carl says it like very earnestly. It's
yeah.
And bread.
Do you know what? I would love it if someone got me a trip to a chip shop. I'd actually consider that a night out or a prime.
I love chip shop.
We can tell.
We've never been to a chip shop together, have we?
We've been to a pizza restaurant.
Yeah, that was a. Yeah, don't bring.
That was a good day.
That was yeah.
We just don't want to speak to you people.
We just don't want to speak to you people. Yeah, that's good. I'll tell you what swearing is.
Well, on that subject, Ricky Gervais is a cund.
Cund, yeah, that's good. Well, I've put that on quite a lot of chance to it myself.
That was my next one.
I know you're going to have it, I'm sure.
I put that
love that. We both love it.
Remix.
Yeah.
That is so hard to say, isn't it, in Ricky's voice?
It is, yeah.
All right, London's shit, innit?
Or is it Last Christmases?
How could a child survive without EastEnders?
I told you I used to choke a lot.
This one come close at Romeo and Juliet.
There was a lot of close contenders, but I didn't put them in.
There was one more I've got. It's going to cost you twice as much as you would have done if you got the DVD the first time around. Again, another great Ricky slur when he just gets to the end of a sentence without not quite thinking what he's going to say next.
Yeah.
I do know what I'm going to say next because it's XFM in the Community.
Oh, that was you were like Tony Blackburn then.
And I'm getting better at this podcast. Do you want to describe what XFM in the Community is?
XFM in the Community is my favourite section of the show. It's basically we took the name of it from the quote that Ricky says, XFM in the Community, and he's talking about everyone's mental who listens to XFM. This is basically your feedback about our show, about the XFM shows, about things in general, just things you want to chat about. It's my favourite section of the show. I think it's Mars's favourite section of the show too.
My favourite's sort of like close to the ending.
Yeah, I'm always happy with that. I love picking a song because it's literally we say goodbye after that. But no, it's a great section of the show, and please do get in touch. We've just sort of expanded the feature this week because we've heard Luke. We've got a bit of audio of a listener. I know it wasn't in XFM in the Community, but it was good to hear a listener on the show. So get in touch with your audio. But if you don't want to be heard on the show, that's fine. Just write in on Twitter, Instagram, email. We'll give all the Miles specifically. We'll give all those contact.
You're so struggling with this, aren't you?
No,
talking about social media.
Oh yeah, that bit. Yeah. But this is XFM in the Community, and now Mars sometimes sends me the feedback, but he's the one who traverses social media. He loves it. I'm too old. No, I'm not as active on social media, so I'm hearing a lot of this for the first time. So let's get on with the feature.
Let's do it. So this is from Ryan Williamson, who did send in those Rockbusters. Answers coming up soon. He said, "Hi guys, I've just found your show a couple of months ago and have finally listened to them quick enough to actually catch up. Finding your show by accident and listening for the first time was a bit odd, but in a good way though. I love the show. It seems strange that these radio shows actually still have people listening. I'm sure there's no other radio show that gets that. I do get some odd looks sometimes if I happen to mention to someone who doesn't know about that I listen to these 17-year-old radio shows. I'm quite lucky in a way that one of my best mates also loved the shows. We quote bits to each other and have been sending each other our own Rockbusters clues during the lockdown." Thank you, Ryan, for getting in touch.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Ryan. Great email, very insightful. I agree with you. It's crazy that people are listening to this radio show all these years later. I would imagine that, as you say, probably no other radio station has that. Probably there are some podcasts that have of radio shows that have more listeners, but they're far more recent. I don't think you get anything that's going back sort of 18, 19 years that has this much listenership. And the other interesting thing, Ryan, is, which I think you're very lucky, is that, because Mars and I are lucky in this sense, we both know each other, like physically in the world, and we both love the shows. It's very rare for that to happen, because although a lot of people listen, it's a tiny amount of the overall population. So your best friend loving the shows as well is a right bonus. So you must love that, and you can send each other Rockbusters and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks for listening, Ryan.
It is weird, that sort of. Can you think of any other radio shows that have that long-lasting appeal?
Well, that's what I was saying. I don't think there is anything from that decade, from 2001, 2002. It's 2020 now, that has this much. You get TV shows that are popular, like Father Ted's very popular now. It was on before the XFM show. But to listen to something that was broadcast for a London audience once a week on a Saturday, it wasn't broadcast for like everyone, and it's very of its time. Like it dates, but I quite like that. But it dates. It's not trying to be timeless. It's not trying to entertain people wider than the audience of the show. It's just like, right, we're doing a show on Saturday on XFM, broadcasting to London, try and be entertaining for that 2 hours, and then we'll see you later.
Yeah.
But so many other people now love it. But you get podcasts of radio shows that have more listeners, like Commode and Mayo, I'm sure, have loads and loads of listeners, but they're not, and even to their ones, let's say they started doing them 4 or 5 years ago, Commode and Mayo?
No, they've been going for like plus 10 years.
Okay, but I bet they're not available, the stuff 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to fish them out. But what I do find strange about these shows in particular is they're so quotable and they're so memorable. Like, you can be a fan of a radio show that's been going on for ages, like, I don't know, Terry Wogan or and Kenny Everett, right? Those shows are quotable, but I think Ricky, Steve and Carl kind of hold the record for like most quotable radio shows. I would like to know what other shows listeners listen to that sort of archive or nostalgic radio shows, because I do go back and listen to, Adam and Joe probably is the closest that I can think of. Perhaps like Blue Jam, the Chris Morris show, that's got some really memorable, funny as hell bits, and of course crumbs, what is this?
Well, Ellis James and
Joel Robbins, but it's not old enough yet. It's not old enough for it nostalgic, but also got all those like old shows like I don't know, Flight of the Conchords, that started off as a radio show. League of Gentlemen started off a radio show. Little Britain started off as a radio show. Loads of big popular BBC and also non-BBC shows started out on radio. Like, radio's a really diverse format, and
but the differences with those shows, I think, the differences with the XFM shows, the Ricky Gervais shows, like shows like that started off on radio, were always trying to reach a kind of a mass audience. I'm not saying they would try and have mass appeal and be like mainstream. They weren't. Certainly Flight of the Conchords wasn't. But they were always trying to entertain a wider audience, I think, and with the knowledge that what they were trying to do, it was like one stage, and the next stage for them was to go on telly, and the next stage was to do touring and concerts, things like that. This radio show with Ricky, Steve and Carl, it was just a little radio show. No one intended it. Like there was no end point. There was no end goal. Like they weren't trying to get anywhere. Ricky and Steve had already written stuff. Carl didn't want to go anywhere. They were just sat in the studio. There was nothing. Like there was no wider purpose to it, and that's what makes it so amazing and lovely and sweet. That people still listen all these years later.
It's really great. Also, I did come across this. It's not. It wasn't emailed or tweeted to us, but it's something interesting that I found and something I'm eager to get people's opinions on. This is from Derry. Derry said, was explaining to my work colleague that the Carl Pilkington Gervais Smirch XFM show, what it is, sorry, and some lass interrupted me saying that she listens to them every night. Such a weird moment, laughing with a stranger about monkey news. So I want to ask listeners their strangest or surprise XFM encounters. These could be with friends, relationships, strangers or family. I want to know your times when you've thought, I'm the only one. But then you meet a fellow listener, often in very unexpected circumstances, and you strike up a relationship. And it could be a long-lasting relationship or just a fleeting moment where, a connection between two people. But these are the times when I want to talk about it, kind of inspired by this week's XFM in the community, and also Gary and I's relationship, and
the reason that I that's an interesting topic, and the reason why it's interesting to hear about those experiences are because they're so rare. Because as I was saying, is very few. Like Ryan, his best mate listens. That's it. That's interesting because I don't think there's many people who have a really good mate. We're lucky in that sense that we both know each other outside, but we love the shows independently. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear listeners' takes on that. Now we did have it's not XFM in the community, but we actually had a few Rockbusters earlier, didn't we? So let's type them up. So go through them again, and I'll try and guess. And
let's start backwards because I did actually get this one. To be fair. Ryan made these to be deliberately as hard as possible. I didn't get them. The third one was, you can't just keep decapitating people. What's going on there? And that was
Ed Sheeran.
Do you understand that?
Well, I think what he's like, Ed could be head, and Sheeran like shearing, like if you're shearing gardening.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't work as a clue still, because that just, you'd have to phrase the clue differently. But anyway,
come up with some stuff then, Gary.
I did years ago. All gone out. No. Listen. I'm going to dissect these clues, and I'm going to feed back on these clues in a gently teasing way. But I really appreciate you emailing in. So I'm going to just review these in that sort of teasing manner.
Okay, cool. The second one is the Jamaican fella thinks that cat over there is happy.
What's initials? KP?
Yeah.
Katy Perry?
Yeah, that's correct, actually. Do you know why it's correct?
Well, Kate is cat, so it's like cat.
No.
Katy Perry. What is it?
Kitty Purry.
Okay. Now, this isn't even gentle teasing.
Right.
That is shit, Carl. Right. No, I'm sorry. I know it's Christmas. No, I'm joking. But that is... Ryan, I know you made these to be deliberately shit, so don't,
And the last one, this is actually my favourite. Okay. That person just stole my butter. NM. I don't know if you'll know this artist. I think you will, but you're not that old.
Something Marjorie or something.
Well, sort of. Well, that is in there, but...
Something Marge or... Yeah, go on.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj.
Oh, Nicki Minaj. Yeah, I know
Nick Minaj.
Nick, oh, for God's sake. Those are brilliantly stupid. I love them. I do like them, right? Yeah.
I love them.
You and I know they don't work, but that's the point.
They're great. So we are going to wrap up, which I'm fiercely excited about, because at present I'm at my mum's house and she's taking my niece and nephews out to the park. So we've got to wrap this up quick before they come back and scream and interrupt this load of shiz. So we're going to end the show now. We're going to do the Trout Spinners Library. This is when Gary and I select a song each and we put it into our Spotify playlist called the Trout Spinners Library. And these songs can be ones that, either have been of sentimental value, or songs that we like, or songs that we've thought of because we've been inspired by the show. So Gary, what you got this week?
I just had these in my bag from last week. Basically, my one this week, someone on my Facebook just happened to put this playlist or something, and I just clicked on it. I don't even like them, and it was a song that so reminded me of my childhood. And since then, I've been listening to their music. And so
what did your mum post on Facebook?
She didn't. It wasn't my mum. I don't click on her links because they could be dangerous.
It could be a bit fruity.
Yeah, I could go to prison or something. But no, I've been listening, and YouTube has since started recommending the videos to me because I've been listening so much. It reminds me of childhood, not childhood, but later childhood, so later teenage years. And
after the abuse.
These songs are so cheesy. It's so cheesy, okay? And they're full of cliches, right? So they're full of sentimental cliches, but they are inspiring and positive. They really are inspiring and positive. So the song I'm going to put in, there's two I'm thinking of. Can I put in two, or shall I pick one?
One. You've only got one, mate. This is Desert Island Discs, but sort of lower, not as good.
Okay. S Club 7, Reach.
I'm going to allow that, actually. Just the end of the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I just wanted to assure listeners that Miles does not have final say on whether I can get.
But you would have been much older for S Club 7, because for me, I would have been about.
I was. Oh, so it wasn't like I wasn't into it. I wasn't into them at the time particularly, but I just remember they're so positive. Like, when it seems all your hopes and dreams are a million miles away, I will be there for you. When it's so it's just
that sounds like a funeral.
Yeah, no, I know. That's how I sing, like a funeral singer. But I wasn't particularly into them at the time. Like Spice Girls, I was at the time, but I wasn't particularly into S Club 7. You're right, I was like 16, 17. And they're cheesy, and they're full of cliches. But, my God, you listen, they are relentlessly and overwhelmingly and heartwarmingly positive, and really just they make you feel good.
You know what? No, I do actually, I like and respect that choice.
Thank you, mate.
Tick.
What's your song?
My one is a bit more highbrow. I've gone for Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water.
I like where our songs are so clashed. The songs are so different.
But do you know what's so strange is you're picking the cheesy ones. It should be the other way round.
I know. Well, you know, no, I didn't pick all the cheesy ones. I have some nice ones.
No, I know. Mariah Carey. That wasn't cheesy.
Sorry.
Anyway, guys, Gary, I'm sick of talking to you, and I want to wrap this shite up. What you got planned for the rest of the week?
Whoa, what you mean apart from crying in the corner?
Which one?
Including that. Which corner? Oh, any corner. I might play chess with myself. I've got a chessboard there. No, I don't know. I'm going to do uni work and stuff. But I just want to say thanks for getting in touch. Do send in your MP3 files or just written comments. We love to hear from you. Take care. Stay safe, as people say these days. And we'll see you next week.